Welcome to Nightmare Fuel Stories, the watcher I never wanted to be a security guard at Meridian Plaza. The graveyard shift was the only position available, and I needed the money desperately after my divorce. 3 months of sleeping during the day and patrolling empty hallways at night had taken its toll, but I had settled into the monotony. Watch the cameras, walk the floors, check the doors, repeat. Until I noticed something wrong with the surveillance system. It started on a Tuesday. I remember because I had just finished my ham sandwich, the same lunch I packed every Tuesday, when I glanced at monitor 6 and saw movement in the executive hallway on the 14th floor. A shadow passing quickly across the frame. Nothing unusual about that, except the 14th floor had been vacant for renovations for the past month. I radioed Hector, the other night guard who patrolled the opposite wing. "Hey, you near the 14th, thought I saw something on the cameras." His voice crackled through. "Negative, I'm down in the parking garage, want me to check it out?" "No, I'll handle it," I said, rising from my chair. I didn't want to seem jumpy over what was probably nothing. The elevator hummed as it carried me upward. When the doors slid open, I was greeted by the smell of fresh paint and construction dust. Plastic sheeting covered doorways and drop cloths protected the new carpeting. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness as I moved down the corridor. "Security," I called out. "Anyone here?" No response, just the soft hiss of the building's ventilation system. The executive wing was empty, just as it should be. I was about to leave when I heard it, a soft shuffling sound from behind a partially constructed wall. I approached slowly, hand on my taser. "This is security, come out now." Nothing. I peered around the wall into what would eventually be a conference room. Empty. Back in the security office, I rewound the footage from camera 6. There it was again, the shadow moving across the frame, but as I watched more closely, something didn't add up. The shadow moved from left to right, but there was no corresponding entry on the adjacent camera that covered the hallway intersection. Whatever had cast that shadow had appeared in one camera's view and disappeared before reaching the next. I told myself it was a trick of the light, maybe headlights from the street below somehow reflected through the windows. I made a note in the log and continued my shift. The next night I spotted it again, this time on the 8th floor. A dark figure moving down an empty corridor at 2:17 a.m. I checked the adjacent cameras, nothing. Whatever it was never appeared on connecting hallways or elevators. It simply materialized in one camera's view, then vanished. I showed Hector the footage during our shift change. "Probably just interference," he said with a shrug. "These systems glitch all the time, for 3 nights in a row on different cameras." He gave me a look I was becoming familiar with, the one that said I was being paranoid. "Look, Davis, you've been working nights too long. It messes with your head, take a sleeping pill during the day or something." I didn't mention it again, but I started keeping a log, camera number, time stamp, duration of the anomaly, location. After a week I had documented 17 instances. The pattern seemed random at first, different floors, different times, but then I noticed something. The appearances were moving inward, spiraling toward the center of the building. On night 12 I saw it on camera 11, the hallway just outside the security office. My heart pounded as I stared at the monitor. The shadow lingered longer this time, hovering at the edge of the frame as if aware it was being observed. I swiveled in my chair to look at the actual hallway visible through the glass partition of my office. Empty. I looked back at the monitor. The shadow was still there, but now it had changed. What had been an amorphous shape now had definition. A silhouette that was unmistakably human. I grabbed my radio. "Hector, where are you right now?" No response. "Hector, come in." Static. I stood up, hand trembling slightly as I reached for my flashlight. The hallway on the monitor still showed the figure, motionless now, while the actual hallway beyond my glass partition remained empty. I had to investigate, even as every instinct told me to stay put. The moment I stepped into the hallway, the lights flickered. Just once, a brief interruption that left me blinking in the sudden dimness before they stabilized. The corridor was empty, just as I had seen with my own eyes from the office. I walked its length, checking each door, finding nothing out of place. Back at the security desk, I rewound the footage. There it was, the shadow figure in the hallway, and then, at precisely the moment I had stepped out of my office, the feed went to static for 3 seconds. When the picture returned, both the shadow and I were gone from the frame. I sat back, a cold feeling settling in my stomach. The cameras were showing things that weren't there, or maybe, the thought chilled me further, they were showing things that were there, just not when I was looking. The next day, instead of going home to sleep, I visited the building's management office. Marjorie, the property manager, was surprised to see me. "Davis, you look terrible." "Everything all right? I need to know about the surveillance system," I said without preamble. "When was it installed? Who maintains it?" She blinked, taken aback by my intensity. "It was part of the renovation 5 years ago." Precision Security handles the maintenance. Why? Has anyone else reported issues with the cameras, seeing things that shouldn't be there? Marjorie's expression shifted subtly. What kind of things? Shadows, figures. Things moving that don't show up on connecting cameras. She was quiet for a moment too long. I think you should take a few days off, Davis. Night shifts can be disorienting. That's not an answer, I pressed. She sighed, glancing at her office door as if to ensure it was closed. There have been reports, nothing substantiated. The previous night guard mentioned some anomalies in his resignation letter. What happened to him? He quit suddenly. Left town, I believe. I leaned forward, and before him, Marjorie's discomfort was palpable now. There have been 4 night guards in the past 3 years. Turnover is high for that position. I thanked her and left, more unsettled than before. Outside, I squinted in the harsh daylight, my body protesting the disruption to its nocturnal schedule. Instead of going home, I drove to the public library and spent hours researching Meridian Plaza. The building had been constructed in 1978 on land previously occupied by a psychiatric hospital that had burned down in 1972. 6 patients and 2 orderlies had died in the fire. The hospital itself had been built in 1923, replacing an older structure, a tuberculosis sanitarium dating back to the 1890s. Layer upon layer of suffering, I thought, places remember. That night I arrived for my shift early. Hector looked relieved to see me. "Man, I'm glad you're here," he said, gathering his things quickly. "Something's wrong with the cameras tonight. Keep seeing weird shit." My pulse quickened. "What kind of weird shit?" He hesitated. "Like people, but not people, you know, just for a second then gone, probably just tired." He hurried out before I could question him further. Alone in the security office, I studied the monitors. Everything appeared normal for the first hour. Then, at 11:47 p.m., I saw it again, a figure on camera 4, 6th floor. This time, it wasn't just a shadow. It had definition, the clear outline of a person standing motionless in the middle of the hallway, facing away from the camera. I zoomed in, my finger trembling slightly on the control. The figure was wearing what looked like a hospital gown. I switched to camera 5, which showed the connecting hallway. Nothing. Back to camera 4, the figure was still there, but now it had turned. It was facing the camera. It had no face. Where features should have been was just a blank, smooth expanse. I recoiled from the monitor, my heart hammering against my ribs. When I looked back, the figure was gone. I spent the next hour reviewing footage, trying to make sense of what I'd seen. The figure appeared on 6 different cameras that night, each time for exactly 12 seconds before vanishing. Each time it was closer to the security office. At 3:14 a.m., my radio crackled to life, startling me. "Davis," the voice was distorted, barely recognizable as Hector's. "Hector, I thought you went home. Come to the 14th floor, you need to see this." "See what? What are you doing back here?" Static was my only answer. I checked the cameras for the 14th floor. All 4 showed empty hallways under construction, no sign of Hector or anyone else. "Hector, come in. What are you seeing up there?" More static then. "The cameras don't show everything, Davis." "You know that by now." A chill ran through me. Something in his voice wasn't right. It was Hector's voice, but the cadence, the tone, it was off. "I'm calling this in," I said, reaching for the phone. "No," the sudden sharpness made me flinch. "No police, just come up, alone." The line went dead. I sat frozen, staring at the radio. Every instinct screamed that something was very wrong. I looked back at the monitors, scanning each one carefully. All showed empty hallways until I noticed camera 16, which covered the service elevator. Hector was inside, staring directly at the camera. His expression was blank, his eyes wide and unblinking. His lips moved, forming words I couldn't hear. I switched on the audio for that camera, something we rarely used due to the poor quality. "Coming for you next, Davis." Hector's voice emerged through bursts of static. "They've been watching you through the cameras. They see you when you don't see them. They've been waiting for someone who notices them back." The elevator doors closed, and I lost sight of him. I quickly switched to the 14th floor cameras, expecting to see the elevator arrive, but there was nothing. The service elevator indicator above my desk showed it had stopped between floors. I tried the emergency phone, but the line was dead. My cell phone showed no signal. I was effectively cut off. Logic told me to leave the building immediately, to call for help from outside. But I couldn't abandon Hector if he was in trouble, and some irrational part of me needed answers. I took the main elevator to the 13th floor, deciding to approach cautiously via the stairs. As the doors opened, the overhead lights flickered, once, twice, then stabilized at a dimmer setting than normal. The air felt heavy, charged with a static electricity that made the hair on my arms stand up. The stairwell was dark, the emergency lights casting long shadows as I climbed. Each footstep echoed, unnaturally loud. I paused at the door to the 14th floor, listening. Silence. I pushed the door open slowly. The renovation area was dark except for the faint glow of city lights through plastic-covered windows. Sheets of plastic hung from the ceiling, creating a maze-like environment where anything could be hiding. "Hector," I called out, my voice sounding small in the cavernous space. A rustle of plastic from somewhere ahead. I moved forward cautiously, flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. Construction materials cast strange shadows. A ladder became a looming figure. A stack of drywall transformed into a crouching form. I rounded a corner and stopped. A single construction light had been turned on, illuminating a cleared area where the executive conference room would eventually be. Sitting in the center in a folding chair was Hector. His back was to me. He wasn't moving. "Hector," I approached slowly. "What's going on, man?" He didn't respond. As I drew closer, I noticed something odd about his posture, too stiff, too perfect. I circled around to face him, and what I saw made me stumble backward. Hector's eyes were open but unseeing, fixed on some point in the distance. His expression was frozen in a look of terror, mouth slightly open as if in mid-scream. But what struck me most was his stillness. He wasn't breathing. I reached out a trembling hand to check for a pulse. His skin was ice cold. Suddenly, the construction light flickered. In that momentary darkness, I sensed movement behind me. When the light stabilized, I turned to find myself facing a wall of surveillance monitors that hadn't been there before, at least a dozen screens, each showing a different area of the building. And on every screen was the same figure. The faceless entity in a hospital gown. A voice spoke from Hector's motionless form, though his lips didn't move. "They've been watching us for years, Davis, through the cameras." The eyes they lost in the fire. I backed away, unable to process what I was seeing. "What is this? What's happening?" "The hospital burned, but they didn't leave," the voice continued, emanating from Hector yet clearly not his. "They found new eyes in your cameras, new ways to see, and now they've found you, someone who can see them back." The monitors flickered in unison, and the faceless figures all turned, orienting toward their respective cameras as if looking out at me. "They need a watcher, Davis, someone to see for them. Hector wasn't right, he couldn't really see them, but you can." I turned to run, but the door I'd entered through was gone, replaced by a solid wall. The construction area had transformed, the plastic sheets now resembling hospital curtains, the concrete floor beneath my feet now appearing as aged tile. "What do they want from me?" I demanded, my voice breaking. The monitors flickered again, and now the figures were closer to their respective cameras. On one screen, I recognized the security office where I should have been sitting. The chair was empty. "They want what was taken from them," the voice said. "Eyes to see, a mind to process, a soul to experience." The lights went out completely. In the darkness, I felt something cold brush against my face, like fingers, but wrong somehow, too smooth, too rigid. I swung my flashlight wildly, the beam cutting through blackness to reveal glimpses of hospital gowns, of smooth, featureless faces surrounding me. Then the beam caught something that made my blood freeze. A new monitor had appeared directly in front of me. On it was the image of the 14th floor, showing the construction area from above. I could see myself, surrounded by figures that didn't appear in the actual room around me, but existed only on the screen. As I watched, one of them placed what should have been hands on my shoulders. On the screen, I saw myself stiffen, then go limp. The flashlight fell from my grasp, clattering to the floor but remaining lit, casting long shadows across the room. I tried to move but couldn't, tried to scream but had no voice. In the beam of the fallen flashlight, I saw my own shadow on the wall, but it moved independently, turning its head when I did not, raising an arm when mine remained at my side. The voice spoke again, but now it seemed to come from everywhere. "Welcome to our world, Davis, the space between what is seen and what is real. You'll be our eyes now." The flashlight flickered and died, plunging the room into darkness. When light returned, I was sitting in the security office, facing the bank of monitors. Each screen showed a different part of the building, empty corridors, vacant offices, silent stairwells, all normal, all as they should be. Except I couldn't move, couldn't speak, could only watch. On camera 6, I saw movement, a security guard walking the 14th floor with a flashlight. He looked exactly like me, moved like me, wore my uniform. But it wasn't me. I was here, trapped behind the glass of consciousness, watching. My radio crackled. "Davis, you there? Just checking in." It was Hector's voice. The thing wearing my body picked up the radio. "All clear on my end," it responded in my voice. "Just another quiet night." I screamed silently, trapped behind my own eyes, now nothing but cameras for something else to see through. On one of the monitors, the figure that looked like me turned and stared directly at the camera. It smiled, a wrong, stretched expression, and I knew it could see me watching. It raised a finger to its lips in a shushing gesture. Then it reached up and turned the camera away, pointing it at an empty wall. One by one, each camera in the building was repositioned to face blank walls, empty corners, ceilings, anywhere but the hallways they were meant to monitor. My prison growing smaller with each adjustment. The last camera, the one in the security office itself, continued to function. In its feed, I could see my body rise from the chair and approach the monitor. My face filled the screen, but the eyes were wrong, flat, empty. No one will notice the cameras have moved, my voice said, though I wasn't speaking. No one ever pays attention to what the cameras actually see, except you, Davis. You paid attention, my hand reached toward the camera. The last thing I saw was my own finger pressing the power button. The screen went black. I'm still here, watching, always watching. Sometimes they let me see glimpses, a new security guard checking the monitors, noticing nothing wrong with the odd angles. Maintenance workers servicing cameras that show only walls and ceilings. Hector continuing his patrols, never questioning why his partner suddenly seems so different. They're expanding now. Each new camera installed in the building becomes another eye for them. Each security upgrade extends their reach. And sometimes, when a guard works too many night shifts and begins to notice patterns in the surveillance system that don't make sense, they find someone new to watch through. So if you're working late alone with only security monitors for company, and you notice something strange on the cameras, a shadow that shouldn't be there, a figure that appears in one frame but not the next, look away. Don't acknowledge it. Don't let them know you can see them, because once they know you're watching, they'll never stop watching you. And one day, you'll become nothing but a watcher yourself, trapped behind glass eyes that no longer belong to you, screaming silently as something else wears your face and lives your life. While you can only watch.